Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jack Canfield, and my guest today is Kay Loughrey. And Kay is a nutrition expert, a coach, and a speaker who experienced abuse as a child and ended up using food to hide her shame. And now, after helping herself and hundreds of people lose weight and maintain the weight loss, get a healthy weight loss, and maintain it, she's writing a book about building a healthy relationship with food and a healthy weight and healing the food shame connection, which we're going to hear about, which is so important. Welcome to the show, Kay.
Thank you. I am delighted to be here today.
Well, I'm delighted to have you here. This is such a huge issue, as you know. I think we had like a $3 trillion industry or something ridiculous in terms of people trying to lose weight, but they're often working in the wrong place. So we're going to talk about that. So anyway, glad to have you here. And let's start by talking about, in your book, you mentioned that there were many hurdles you had to face and overcome to get to where you are now. And I'm curious what those were and how did you personally face them and how did you overcome them?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that. And really started when I was a kid. I distinctly remember my mom saying, you're such a bother. Whatever it is you're saying, we don't want to hear it. And so, I was the youngest of two siblings, two-parent household. And so the overarching message was, whatever happens with you, just keep it to yourself. We don't want to hear it. Just keep it to yourself. So I really took in that lesson, and that's what I did. And so, when children are scared, they hide under something. And I was hiding underneath, behind, if you will, overindulging, overeating. And it was like, that game of hide and seek, you probably remember from, being a kid. I was playing that with my life. And so, I was hiding to survive, so to speak. And at 8 years old, I started a devotedly unhealthy relationship with food. And actually, at 8 years old, I started eating, but it wasn't really eating because, something bad had happened to me and I didn't want anyone to know about it. And guess what? I couldn't tell my parents. They didn't want to know. And so I comforted myself with food. I mean, what else was there for an 8 years old person, 8 years old? And I overate for years and I yo-yo dieted, and I looked in the mirror and I didn't even like who I saw. And, as a kid, I couldn't be the friend I wanted to be. How isolating. And as an adult, I couldn't be the wife I wanted to be. And, it's sort of where things really started coming apart. And because I was hiding, it was me, I was hiding. And so maybe after the zillionth argument, I was just kind of devastated, sitting on a couch saying, this is not going to work. This marriage is just on the verge of collapse. This is sort of the end of the road here. And I said, something's got to change. And overnight, I woke up the next morning and somehow I had summoned the courage to face the fear that I was feeling and to just say, this is enough. This is enough. And I decided to get help. And I looked in the, phone book. I, called up people. And then I found a lady who showed me a process that mirrored the choices that I was making for myself. And, it was so obvious once she said it that it wasn't about what I was eating. It was about why I was eating. And that I had been using food to hide my shame. My brain really, that was the first time I registered that. And that was life-changing for me. And I used the process that she showed me, and that changed my life. And so now I don't have to hide all the time. And I have a beautiful relationship with my husband, and we've been on more than 20 international vacations together because we love to explore, we love food and culture, and what a difference. And, it's been 15 years since I started having a healthy relationship with food. And, it was just that I was able to stop overeating, stop yo-yo dieting, and really look in the mirror and love who I saw. And, the person who comes to mind here is Brene Brown. As I think about what she's written as an author, a speaker, a researcher, she wrote that discomfort is the way home. And, that's what I had been experiencing all these years. I knew there had to be a way, but I didn't know what it was. And finally, I found that way. And, the beautiful thing is that healthy eating was a catalyst for me and being able to live the life that I've always wanted to live. And so now I'm living that life that I want to live. And a big part of that, my purpose is really to help other people build that healthy relationship with food just like I did, and really heal that food shame connection.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in just a minute, but let's talk about, you're a success story, obviously, and you have clients that are successes. Share a success story from someone in your practice. I'm curious.
Yeah, and one of my favorites is really Josh. And when he came to me a year ago in April, he said to me, I have a weight problem and I have an eating problem. I'm eating the wrong foods at the wrong time. I'm 310 pounds and I'm continuing to gain weight. And so I actually said to him, you don't really have that weight or eating problem. You have an emotional problem that is showing up in your weight and your eating. And maybe he didn't quite get that, but he said, you know what? I have a knee injury. And if I don't get something done soon, I'm going to have knee surgery. And I'm not setting a good example for my kids. What I'm eating is not a good example. And I'm binge eating at night. And, continuing to gain the weight, just as we mentioned. And so we worked on this process that I worked on, this lady showed me, and that I worked on myself. And as a result, he does not need surgery. He's taking spinning classes 4 times a week. And he's able to sit down and be a good role model for his kids, which is huge for him. And he's lost 85 pounds.
Oh, that's great.
And we're still working on it, but
it's so challenging when someone's that heavy. Even if they lose 20 pounds, it's like hardly anything happened. And so it's really, I know the challenge. I have some friends who've been there and they've lost the weight, and it's a process and it takes some time, but good for you. Talk about, we talk about the food shame connection. Share what that is a little bit more, if you would.
Yeah, it's really powerful. And the shame, usually it might come from a variety of places, including our childhood. My example was from trauma, but it could even be just a parent who wants them kids to clean their plate every night, some control things. Could be social norms. And I know you've worked on and work on habit change, but been thinking about so many people who've had habits. If you had a habit since you were 8 years old, well, you might have had a habit for 50 years. And how are we possibly going to change that overnight? Because our whole body, I believe, is more or less a reflection of the past coming into the present. It's used to all these old moves. And it's very difficult to overcome that. And then we get triggered, we aren't hungry, and we eat. And we say, why did I eat that? I wasn't even hungry. And we feel ashamed. So being able to recognize those triggers in the moment is huge, is key. And being able to figure out what it is that you really wanted. It probably wasn't food. Oftentimes it wasn't. And then be able to make a different choice. And I'll just mention Katie, one of my clients. Many clients that I have helped, but she was a working mom, came home, made dinner every night. And then afterwards, her daughter, her husband went their own ways. And so she was left in the kitchen with the TV. And we discovered through the analysis that I do, that really what she was lonely. She just wanted to connect. She wanted some companionship, But instead, she was drinking 3 or 4 beers a night, a bag of chips, and followed by ice cream. And that wasn't really giving her what she truly wanted. So being able to discover that and then figure out, oh, I'll call my sister or I'll go talk to my daughter. And she felt so ashamed because she had gained 100 pounds since she'd gotten married. And so that was how she healed that shame, is finding out what she was really yearning for and doing that instead. Mm-hmm. So it takes action, of course.
Yeah. You might have already answered this in your answer, but I'll ask you anyway. You know, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of books and programs on weight loss maintenance in the world. But how does your approach in your book stand out and differentiate itself from all the other programs and books that are out there?
Yeah, it's true. It's flooded. We're flooded with food, we're flooded with diets, and we're flooded with diet books. So, one of the issues is that diets just make things worse. And so a lot of those diet books are just contributing to the problem. I mean, 74% of Americans are overweight or obese. And each diet, they just gain more weight, ultimately. Like one lady who came to me and she said, well, when I started dieting, I was 140 pounds. 5 diets later, I'm now 220.
Wow.
I said, if only I just hadn't dieted. So that's a whole big arena of the diet books. And most of them don't deal with the underlying past issues. And it's really an emotional issue from almost everybody. There are a few lucky people that just say, well, if I just do this and just do that and just do this, the 15 pounds will come off and they'll never show up again. I mean, that's the vast minority, but we're ignoring the problem because our food decisions are made emotionally, and the logic doesn't really do it. So my approach is really starting with healing the past, going into those past traumas or whatever happened to you. And then the second piece of it is addressing being present. A lot of people say they're blackout eating after dinner. They don't even remember what they ate. So being present for ourselves and making conscious choices. And so when we are stressed and we eat, it only makes us more stressed. And then we feel ashamed of ourselves. So right. Giving people ways to switch from a stress response to a relaxation response through mindfulness as a piece. And then is the creating your future. And that is not just putting people in a rigid mold of eat this, don't eat that, because that's not sustainable. Most people they can do it for 3 months. And one lady, when she called me, she said, I don't want another diet where I do well for a while, fall off the wagon and regain it all. And that's what's happening for people. Because a lot of times there's a lifestyle issue, a hidden lifestyle issue, like sleep. Many of the people I work with do not get a good night's sleep, or even maybe have sleep apnea. So, or they work to the middle of the night and then they wonder why they don't have the energy to exercise in the morning. So I take a lifestyle approach, and it is food, it is physical activity, but it's the whole of the lifestyle, the ways we're getting in our own way.
Couple quick questions. Why does lack of sleep affect weight?
When you're sleep deprived, you just don't have the resilience, the determination to follow through on what you want to do.
Right.
You're just depleted is the probably simple way to put it.
Sure. And why is it that diets actually create weight gain as opposed to weight loss?
Well, I believe one of the problems is that it messes up our metabolism. Mm-hmm. So every time, and our body finally gets smart and say, well, this is the 4th time you've put me through this stupid diet, so I'm just not going to do it anymore. So your body becomes very resistant to this, and they know the drill. And, we also, just have ways to sabotage ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I can relate to the emotional part. I had a gallbladder operation about 30 years ago. And I lost a lot of weight as a result of it because I couldn't exercise and I didn't feel like eating. I just didn't feel like eating. That was the real issue. And I got really thin and I started to feel really uncomfortable. And I looked at that and it was like, I didn't have any weight to throw around. You know, the idea of you throw your weight around. And I grew up in a all boys military school, which was very macho and football and all that stuff. And I had a coach who wanted me to be a tackle instead of an end. He wanted to fatten me up so I'd be a big lineman, you know. And I realized, wow, this is part of why I don't want to lose weight. I don't feel substantial. And I was able to deal with that. But I mean, it's interesting how many things are unconscious that you don't even know.
Yes.
And you help people get in touch with those things.
Yes, absolutely. It's fundamental.
That's wonderful. Well, I really love what you're doing. And I want people to be able to find you and your book so they can take advantage of you. Where do they go? How do they get in touch with you?
Yes, they can just go to our website and it's sweetlifewellness.com.
Say it again.
Sweetlifewellness.com.
Sweetlifewellness.com. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, thanks for joining me today, Kay.
Thank you so much. I am so glad to be here with you and really thank you.
You're very welcome. And thanks to all of you who are watching today, and make sure to tune in again next week when I'll have another guest whose insights, experiences, and wisdom can help you live a happier, healthier, and more fulfilling life. And until then, remember, there is a solution for losing and maintaining the loss for unwanted weight.